hear that thing bounce off the bottom, you got a prop 0. 1.170.
Just blast all 4 bolts out. You can take a vacuum tester and test each valve. The lip seal off the side of it and destroys the piston. We're back. We're not at the bench, as you guys can all see. We are underneath a Mustang. This Mustang came to us out of a, well, here we are again. I'm talking about the bench. This is a 2019 Mustang. It came in with a 1, 2, 3, 4 shift complaint. This unit, or this particular car, has a 10R80 automatic transmission in it, and it has a 5.0 engine with a Edelbrock, was it G-Force or E-Force? E-Force supercharger on it. This car has been turned up, it has been modified, and it is not in original condition. So we are going to show you the removal of the transmission. This particular car does not have long tube headers on it, which is something that I typically see on this platform of vehicle. So it makes it a little easier to get the transmission out on this one. We don't do this transmission as a conventional transmission on our R&R. We actually leave the drive shaft in, we leave the exhaust attached. We don't take off as many components as we normally would on a truck or on a car that has headers or anything like that on it. So this is going to be kind of a shorter video, but we want to highlight the areas that really are involved in taking it out. So we are going to get started here. Get my air hose out. So I mentioned the drive shaft we're not going to entirely take out. On a Mustang with a 10R80 in it, it has a collector at the back of the transmission. If you want to step over here, Caleb, I will show you what we got. We've actually got a 4-bolt flange right here that connects the drive shaft to the back of the transmission. So what we're going to do is we're going to take out the 4 12mm bolts that hold the yoke to the rear of the transmission.
Angle it down a little.
How's that?
There we go. It was pretty blurry.
Sorry about that, guys. So with the yoke back there, we're going to take those off, and we're actually just going to leave this part and the drive shaft as a whole in the vehicle. Once we lower the transmission down, that drive shaft will stay up in place. So we're going to start by getting that stuff undone. Put your impact in reverse. If you guys are wondering how I was able to reach up in there, this is a 12mm socket from Matco. Part number, I don't know if you guys can see that part number or not, but it's a CUP DL12 M as in Mary, 2 V as in Victor. And is a wobble-ended socket, which really helps whenever you're actually trying to get up on that drive shaft bolt. So, oh, forgot to grab me a screwdriver. Grab a screwdriver, or probably. Now that we've got the 2 bottom bolts out, we're going to pop the shifter linkage off here. Show you guys what we got. We're going to pop the shifter linkage off like so, and then we're actually going to move the shifter selector arm to the second position back, which would be neutral. Now we can actually grab a hold of the drive shaft and turn it to the position we need to get the bolts out. Like so. Put our impact up in here. And pop the 2 bolts out. Like I said earlier, we're just going to leave that flange exactly where it's at for now. We're going to move on to getting some other stuff undone. I like to take the O2 sensors out on these vehicles. There is a harness clip. Oops, sorry about that. There's a harness retainer right up here on the top of the shifter bracket. I don't know if you guys can see that all the way. I'm going to go grab a special tool and we'll pop that deal out of there so we don't have to twist up our O2 sensor. Give me just 1 second, I'll be back with that. All right, now that we've got the tool out, we can take this tool and pry up on the clip like that.
What tool is that?
This is a ASG 185B This is a snap-on tool, and it's actually made for doing door and window trim, but it works really good in the transmission world. So now that we've got that off of there, we can take our harness and pull it down and keep it up behind here, get it where it's supposed to go, and actually feed that harness out without having to twist up our O2 sensors. I'm pretty particular. I like to retain all of the factory Christmas trees that I can to try to keep our harness where it needs to be. So now we've got that out of there. We're gonna move this over to this heat shield and kind of work our way around to get to the torque converter bolts and the starter. Starters are always fun on these cars. Oh, that one's got a little metal retainer on top of it still. See if we can't get that retainer to pop off there. A little turkey. Alright, gotta get this clip to pop the rest of the way off. Alright, now we can lay that dude to the side. We're just gonna allow our harness to kind of dangle there. We're gonna see if we can get this next black plastic clip to pop out. Have to get kind of behind them sometimes. They can be a little bit of a turd. That one does not want to pop out of there. Gonna have to get us a new one for there. Go ahead and pop this other side out. All right. Now we're going to move up to our starter. So the starter on these cars, I said a minute ago, these things can be really entertaining to try to do. The reason I said that is because the top starter bolt previously was on this side above the starter. On the later model Mustang, you actually have a bottom bolt here and you have a top bolt on the back side of the transmission. So the problem is that you can't get your hand up there to work that bolt real easily. So what I typically do, I'll use a long extension from the back with a wobble socket right through here to pull that bolt out. So that's what we're gonna get to here.
So that top bolt's going from the back side?
Yep, going from the back of the transmission. It is a 13 millimeter bolt. So with our O2 sensor out of the way, we have enough room to reach up in there with our wobble socket. Actually get that bolt out of position. Top starter bolt. Now we're going to remove the bottom starter bolt. We're also going to unwire this particular starter. There's a 10 millimeter nut on the back of the ignition feed wire and a 13 millimeter nut on the back of the main battery positive wire. Always make sure that your battery is disconnected before you put any type of tools against your starter. If the battery is not disconnected, you can cause a lot of major problems. Sorry about that, guys. I keep dropping my nuts. It's not good. Get to working and dropping nuts. Get off of there. Remove our starter wire and remove our ignition wire. We're going to put our nuts back on our starter. These two nuts are specific to the starter, and if you use them in another location, you'll be pretty unhappy. So we're going to thread those right back into position. Now we've got to get the lower starter bolt out. If I could find my socket that I just had. Somebody stole my socket. Now we have our starter out. We're going to put our two bolts back in the starter just because they are specific to the starter, and lay it to the side. We've got a bracket holding the transmission cooler lines on at the front corner here. I'll go ahead and get that bracket undone while we're on this side of the transmission. Knew it. Took my fingers off of it and fell off. Run, bolt! It's a long-winded bolt. Alright. Go ahead and pry this bracket backwards on the cooler lines. It'll actually slide right out of your way to where you can get the 13 off behind it. Alright, now here's where you have to be a little tricky. You have to lean that bracket outward and slide that bolt in behind you. So now that we've got that one out, we're going to move to the other side. Over here, Ford was nice enough to give us this rubber plug right in this spot right here. Gotta get it to come out. I can grab a hold of it. Here, rubber plug. Pull this rubber plug out of there. Now we can actually access our torque converter bolts. So what I'm going to do, I'll put my lights over here where I can see. We are going to take a long pry bar. Go up inside of the hole where the starter would be. We're actually going to push the motor upward like so, so we have our bolt in this access window just like that.
There it is.
Beautiful. And right there is where we were getting the torque converter bolts out. So careful not to drop your nuts inside of your tranny. But this is a 15 millimeter nut. We are using a Matco 15 millimeter wobble socket with a 3/8 impact. On the earlier Fords, the converter bolts were 9/16. On later model Fords, they're 15 millimeter. So make sure you're using the right socket. We're gonna get these converter bolts busted out real quick, and then we'll get our jack set up. Okay, now that all the torque converter bolts are out and our jack is in position, we're going to start with removing this little retainer. Get our 13 out. Get out of there. These bolts are so tight.
That's why I always use Bluetooth bolts.
You know, the factory does not use enough Bluetooth bolts in my opinion. They put all these bolts in here really tight. I don't appreciate it. They know we're gonna work on this thing.
Just finger tight.
Yeah, if they could assemble cars with some like quick release bolts, that would help a tranny guy out. Ford, get on that.
Wing nuts on everything.
Yeah. I want Zeus clips. Velcro. Nah, Bluetooth transmissions are where the future's at, guys. Lots of blue Loctite for a bolt that's irrelevant. Okay, now we're going to, if I could talk, we are going to lower our cross member, remove our rear mount, and start working from there. Get our cross member out. We've got 4 18 millimeter bolts. Switch our impact back to our 15 millimeter wobble. Lower our transmission down just slightly. Gonna take 2 of the 3 out, and then we're gonna hold our cross member mount assembly and remove our last one. When the transmission cross member comes out, mount included. All right, next we need to get our shifter cable removed. I grabbed the socket. I don't know where I put it. There it is. Almost lost my socket. Got a 8 millimeter bolt holding the side of the shifter cable on here. Get that little guy out. Like so. Then we're actually going to take a pick and we're going to move these little white pieces of plastic right here. We're going to move those rearward to be able to unlatch the cable. So we've got one on top, we'll push back with our finger. Then our one on the bottom, we'll use the pick and then we'll slide the whole shifter cable out. Sorry if I'm cutting off your view there. Like so. We'll just let that guy dangle. I'm going to lower our transmission down a little bit more if it'll allow us. Make sure our drive shaft is separated like we thought it would. Now we have to get to our bell housing bolts. We've got 2 options at this point. We can either A, break our exhaust loose right here and allow the motor to release a little bit further, or we can break it loose up top at the manifold collector. Other option would be to try to reach up here with a really long extension and a wobble socket and take those bolts out. So for the sake of being able to show you guys what we're doing, we're going to drop our drive shaft. We're going to take our exhaust clamps loose here, slide these back, try to lean this thing down a little bit. There's one. And there's the other one. Now that we've got these slid back from the collector pipes, we can actually lower this down a little further.
See.
And actually have a little bit of room to get to our top bolts. I'm gonna see if we can't position our light a little bit here. Where we can see them. And we'll see if we can't get those things out of there. Reach up with our long 1/2 to 3/8 extension and start taking bolts out. Now the fun bolt, which is way up on top. This is a bolt that I'm not certain you guys will be able to see, but I'm going to attempt to get my extension up there on it. If you get it out of the hole. Not gonna work so well on that one. So I'm gonna bring our extension back down and step back and punt here. Move our drive shaft to the side. Add some extension to the end of our extension. I'm going to reach all the way in from the back of the transmission here, reach all the way up top, and feed our extension all the way up to the very front. This part can be a little tricky, but see if we can get a little bit more clearance here. There we go. Sometimes you just need just a hair bit more clearance. Clearance. All right, well, we've got this guy way up in the top. Back our bolt out of the hole here. There it is. All right, now we get to move to the other side and do the same thing. Now that we found our socket here, I'm gonna take out the lower bolt, take out the next bolt right above it. And then we've got one bolt left way up on top. I'll see if I can't reach it here. It is in the list of the really far away bolts. All right. Get our impact back here. Come here, turkey.
Tranny is ready to come out.
Yes, sir.
Said, help, I'm in a Ford.
Yeah, it's had a good long life of about 7,000 miles on it. I think it's time to take the transmission out. Okay. Get our light stuck up here. I'm going to show you guys our harness disassembly. Get our light to stay. There we go. Now we've got our transmission harness connector right here. Oh! Little red clip that just popped off there. We're gonna have to replace now. This red clip needs to be moved rearward for this to be pushed down for the connector to actually be released. These things can be kind of stuck sometimes, and that's why you see you guys break these things a lot. But if you take a little bit of time, you can usually get them to wiggle out of there. And then once that's depressed, push this straight rearward, and that comes off. Above that, we've got a retainer onto the transmission case. I'll go grab a pair of pliers to get that off of there. We're gonna reach up here with a pair of needle nose pliers and squeeze this dude together and push that straight up and out the top. Now we can pull our bell housing bolts out of their respective holes. Make sure our converter has come out of the flex plate, which it has. We will take our line retaining bolt out. We'll lower this transmission down. This is actually the only part that you can spill your transmission fluid out while removing a 10R80. Move our bell housing bolt out of the way. I'm going to take this I'm going to take this 10mm bolt out right here on the side. Jesus pickle. That Loctite is really working. I'm gonna grab a 3/8 ratchet on this thing because I really do not want to strip that bolt. Alright. Now we're going to pop our cooler lines out of the side of the transmission. Ooh. It is not good to see brown fluid come out. Not a good sign, guys. We're going to move our drive shaft yoke above the transmission. And then we're going to pull the transmission back just a hair. And we're going to come down. Coming down, we've got to watch our cooler lines and our vent tube on top, as well as the shifter cable. You guys notice there's a Christmas tree hanging out for the shifter cable. If you lower this down too far without undoing that that little Christmas tree, it'll actually break the shifter cable. So you need to reach in and remove that Christmas tree, which can be kind of a little bit of a turkey. All right. We can lower this thing down and get to our harness. All right, there's one more Christmas tree right there that is hanging us. What we're gonna do is we're actually gonna lift the harness up over the top of the transmission. I'm gonna reach up there and disconnect that one. That give you enough light? Yeah. All right. Now we can lower our transmission the rest of the way. Get the cooler lines unbound. Alrighty, if you guys that are curious, this is what a 10R80 automatic transmission looks like. This is a factory 10R80 torque converter. On the side of it, you'll see the 10R. Thank you guys, as always, for watching. Don't forget to check out the giveaway. We're trying to get that thing wrapped up and finished up and try to find us a winner. And like, share, subscribe, all that stuff. And
Go back to the video, comment on it.
yep. So the giveaway has stipulations. Go back to the giveaway video. We are announcing how we are doing the giveaway and what we're doing with it. So check that thing out, and we'll see you guys on the next video.